السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا مولانا محمد عليه وعلى آله أفضل الصلاة وتم التسليم. Jazakum Allah khair for tuning in. May Allah reward you and give you Jannat Firdaus. We have, alhamdulillah, with us Sheikh Abdullah Idris, Sheikh Ala, and Sheikh Ahmed Salim from ISNA coming in live. Inshallah, we're here for the regular quick discussion and Q&A, inshallah ta'ala. And I'll pass on the floor, inshallah, to Sheikh Abdullah. Tafaddal, Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. We keep praying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep everyone safe and healthy and keep us away from all what we hear, inshallah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easier for all of us, inshallah ta'ala. Good to see you again, inshallah. I'll be meeting with you. There are a number of people actually who called me and I said to them, listen, join us online. We'll answer all the questions. So I don't know whether we are going to expect them to come or not, because there are some questions that came in and I said, okay, it might be good that we go on to over them because they benefit every one of them. I hope they are joining us, inshallah. And pass to Sheikh Ala.
Thank you, Sheikh. I didn't know the Sheikh plays sports. MashaAllah. Nice pass, MashaAllah. Hey, Allahu Akbar. Remember the good old football days? Alhamdulillah. I remember those days. So, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And welcome to another episode, inshallah, of the panel discussion with the Mashayikh. Thank you for, again, inviting us to your home. And if I don't do this, Sister Amina is going to kill me. She's from Afghanistan. You know Afghanistan people? Allahu Akbar. You know Pashtun? Allah help us, wallahi. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Shahada. You know, Shahada, alhamdulillah, quarantine, you being alone. Yeah. She's going to shoot me now. Even worse. Alhamdulillah. So I'm just reminding you to keep us, alhamdulillah, keep the drive alive and keep us going on the air by your generous donations. May Allah bless you, subhanahu wa ta'ala, and grant you much more than you're given. And don't forget to go online and inshallah donate generously. So we can make sure that we can give you the content again, over and over again, and keep the masjid, inshallah, open and operating. Jazakumullah khair. Today we had a little bit of a discussion about the khutbah. We'll give a little bit of a reminder. I hope you were there at 2 o'clock. And inshallah, I was very happy to see that people are online. People, alhamdulillah, they're there. And it's so nice to have the interactive people are being there for us. And we want also to see if it's better for us, you guys, for you guys to see if we can give the reminder before the khutbah or after the khutbah. We're listening. We're very flexible, but we'll see what we can do for you, inshallah. And from here, I'll ask Sheikh Ahmed Salim to say his 2 cents, please.
2 cents.
2 cents.
Donation. 2 cents. Every cent counts. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi wa ba'd. Alhamdulillah, I think it's like today, those of you that were there on Instagram Live, it was quite like sad to enter like masjid 20 minutes before Jummah and like it's just me, and then you had brother Ilyas, who's like the foundational stone of like serving this masjid. He was there and like alone, like vacuuming the whole masjid, right? Like there's nobody there, but it's just, you know, you feel a connection. And he said, you know, it's very sad for him that having served this masjid for so long that we're sitting on a Jummah where there's nobody here. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He is pleased with us and, you know, He forgives our shortcomings for whatever we have done. And we are soon back to normal and we all can connect back to the masjid, alhamdulillah. So as we talk today, the idea would be that, you know, Sheikh Ala already did his reminder, but the idea was a lot of questions were coming to us on like WhatsApp. Sheikh Ala was getting questions, Sheikh Abdullah was getting questions, Sheikh Ala was getting questions, Hussam online, you know, sitting at his home, he was getting questions, I was getting questions, and they ranged from like, how long is it gonna last? What is gonna happen? Can we do Jum'ahs of like 2-3 people? So if there are people here on live, we have moderators sitting here, they can start telling us questions and we can start answering them. If not, then to initiate the conversation, I think I'll ask Sheikh Abdullah, there were a few questions that he had. And I'll ask Sheikh Ala to talk a lot about, there's a lot of chatter about funerals and how to do funerals. And, you know, we went through our due diligence. So I think that would be important for you to shed light on. So I'll give it to Sheikh Abdullah, unless Sheikh Hussam, you have something to add.
So I have a few questions here actually in mind, inshallah. We can start with them that have come in. And one of them is asking about the funeral. So the Salat al-Janazah. How are we dealing with people who pass away in general and from Corona at this time? And I know we had an incident today, Sheikh Ala maybe, and Sheikh Abdullah and Sheikh Ahmed, you can shed some light on that, inshallah ta'ala.
Sure. So I'll shed some light from like the logistics perspective. and then we'll leave the fiqh to the sheikh inshallah. So we had a case which was a presumptive COVID death. So there are like 3 categories. You have a normal death, you have a presumptive COVID death, or you're going to have like a confirmed COVID death. And the way government deals with them, every single one of them has a different, if it's a different method. So a normal death, like Monday we have a janazah, normal death, absolutely, like something's normal. There was nothing wrong with the individual, just a normal death. But despite the fact that it is a normal death, we have taken measures over here in ISNA Canada to bring like professional medical overalls, full PPE, personal protective equipment. We're not taking any chances. Now, if it's a COVID death or it is presumptive COVID death, then there are completely different regulations, mandations. I wouldn't say regulations. There are high recommendations from the BOA, the Bereavement Authority of Ontario. I've been on call with them yesterday, most of the day, talking to them back and forth. And they highly recommend that if we are not a certified funeral home, that we should not handle that body. There are regulations. People go to school to be prepared for such infectious bodies. And we don't know much about the virus in reference to how long it's going to last. Is it going to die after the person is deceased? 2 days, 4 days, 10 days, wallahu alam. There's so much unknown about this. It's not like the person talking to me is like, it's not like AIDS that they have actually figured out things related to it, or SARS where they've figured out how the virus is operating and they can put lesser strict procedures. So in today's case, obviously, we had to follow the recommendation. We want to be in line with BOA, the Bereavement Authority of Ontario. And the recommendation was that the whole process will be handled through a certified funeral home. The body was released from the hospital, brought to the funeral home, from the funeral home straight to the cemetery. The cemetery itself has new restrictions. So the restrictions are you cannot have more than 10 people from government. So the cemetery says 10 people includes the imam, the masjid staff, and like 4 or 5 people of the family members. You cannot get off the car. You're not allowed to get off the car. You're going to sit in the car while the body arrives. And that's what happened, Sheikh, right? Like when the body arrived. Actually, you know what? You were there for the janazah. You tell us what happened. Because I was on the phone. So, yes.
Okay, so Bismillah, alhamdulillah, obviously it was a little bit, again, surreal to go through, first, again, Allahu A'lam, of course, may Allah have mercy upon the brother and patience in his family. But if you think that you're dealing with the first case that is possible for that, it's kind of really does, bring it home. Sometimes you hear about things. You also hear about different countries. But when it comes home and it comes to your masjid and you're asked to pray janazah, it really does hit you, wakes you up. Yes, this is real. It's not a figment of imagination. It is not something that, it's not going to come to us. It happens to other people and so on. It was actually a good reality check, for lack of a better word. So we went there. The professionals were actually waiting for us. We did pray janazah on the brother, may Allah have mercy upon him, and we were 4. So I was leading, and 1 person only per line. We did their janazah. We buried the brother. We made dua for him, and we moved out. We were not allowed to do anything else other than that. The people actually were supposed to bury and come with the equipment. They refused to come while we were there. So they said, okay, well, come and go ahead, complete the burial. I said, no, you have to leave first. So it was the first that I had to deal with it that way. And the brother, the professional, was actually in a different car ahead of us, not with us. He had to leave before and so on. It was a very restricted type of zone, and it was indeed a waker-upper for us. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us all from, again, we're not running away from martyrdom, wallahi, and we already know that it's time for us in 120 days of the woman, all of that. But we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us, protect our loved ones, and may Allah protect the whole ummah, Rabb. Ameen.
Jazakum Allah khair, Sheikh. That takes me to a question, Sheikhna, Sheikh Abdullah. For someone who is passing at this time, and someone who passes away, what should we do in terms of washing, in terms of, should we do ghusl, should we do tayammum? What is the fiqh ruling, Sheikh?
طيب بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Generally speaking, these are abnormal circumstances.
Yes.
Like they are to be treated as such. There is nothing absolutely wrong in anything you do during these circumstances because we are not deliberately doing it. As a matter of fact, we want to do it. But this deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also is protective. It protects others from them. We did actually go through AIDS. I remember we had an AIDS situation here. Yes. At that time, we received the body in a bag with a note that nobody opens it, nobody touches it, nothing you do. There is some opinion that say you just spread water over the bag. And they say, yes, that's permissible. You know, even the Prophet, ﷺ, if you recall back, people didn't strip the Prophet of his clothes. As a matter of fact, there is an incident where Ali ibn Abi Talib was standing there. He said, we heard somebody telling us you can, because they differ, whether they strip the Prophet ﷺ or not. They said, somebody said they heard the voice saying no, and they did it over him. They did it over the clothes of Rasulullah ﷺ. So based on that, we did it actually that time on the back. There are some accidents that actually also came. I remember one of the sad incidents that we had. There is an accident where 3 Muslim people died and they were really in bad shape. And they told you, don't keep on over it because these are shaheed. And by the way, the time that we are in, we all know that the Prophet ﷺ said, if you are in a state of like what we are, let's quarantine, the plague and so on, even if you are patiently staying there, Allah will consider you as a shaheed. This is not. So in this case, a shaheed is buried as he is. You don't have to open him. You don't have to do anything for him. I know people are very sensitive. People are so on. Actually, let me say this now. There are 3 stages of this. One before, in regular days, regular times, actually our staff, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they always pray for the brothers who pick up the janazahs, the sisters who wash it. It's very difficult. Washing a body, going through all of this is not an easy job. So may Allah reward them. So initially, we used to pick up the body, like may Allah reward Brother Farid and Muhammad. They would go and pick it up. Sometimes they get helped by people. So they bring the body from either the house or the hospital to the masjid. And then there is the volunteers who wash the bodies, whether they're sisters or brothers' teams. And then from there, we used to pray as normal here with all the people who were there. And we used to ask as many people as we can because sometimes it's a responsibility. When you find somebody who doesn't have any people, we'll call some people. I used actually to make sure that I get at least 40 people for every janazah that we have. So now we cannot do all of this. And we don't have to because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us that leniency that we can do it. So now it depends on strict instructions.
Yes.
If they say bodies cannot be picked by our staff, we should not pick it up. And I know it's emotional, it's sensitive, and so on. If they say that not anyone can wash except a certain staff or a certain number of people, we should abide by that. If they say we cannot take the body, open it, do the ghusl or anything, we should abide by that. And all of this, alhamdulillah, our deen, the result first, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I know people get emotional, it's sensitive. We all pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't put us through that situation. But you never know. So that's what it is. People should not be. And then, again, I always advise Muslims generally, everyone listening to us. Alhamdulillah, we have people here in the masjid. We try to do our utmost. We take that responsibility. So trust in the people who instruct you, especially in conformity of laws, regulations, and so on, within the framework of the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Sahih.
MashaAllah. Jazakumullah khair, Sheikh. A question is coming in, and that is, can we pray Salat al-Ghaib on someone who passes away? And this is coming in from Brother Fayaz.
Right. You want to go first? Sure. Right. Basically, Salatul Ghaib is prayed on 3 types of people. If a person dies in a place where we are not sure whether there is janazah, pray to him or not, then we do Salatul Ghaib. We used to do it. Like there are some people who come tell us, for instance, a person dies, we don't know whether they prayed, especially people who come from families who are not Muslims.
Like the sister that we prayed for.
That sister. Not only this, by the way, there are other cases too. There are some people, there is a case we have here that the family refused to give us the body because we don't have a legal, like we don't have a power of attorney and so on. We cannot fight with them. So we know for sure the family they didn't want to give us the body. We pray Salatul Ghaib. That's another. Third cases where we sometimes know after the person dies. I remember in one time, people came to us, we asked about one of our brothers who accepted Islam. We don't know where he is. Unfortunately, our relationship sometimes is not that strong that we know. Then months after that, we discovered the brother passed away. and we know that he's not a Muslim. We didn't know anything about him. We called the people, we pray Salat al-Ghaib on him. Now, again, in cases like this, what we have, and if there is no way, say for instance, sometimes the hospitals, you know what, there's a sad part. I have a clip here on YouTube, which is very sad, that in New York, they get people in a truck, they bury them, you don't know who went with who. So sometimes we don't know who is among these are Muslims. So if we came to know, then we can pray Salat al-Ghaib. Other than that, Salat al-Ghaib is fardu kifaya. Like many of us get emotional. I know this is common, that brother will come home, my mother died in, say for instance, back home, and I want Salat al-Ghaib. We say, did people pray on him on her? They say, yes, it's khalas, there is no way. Actually, dua is better for them than Salat al-Ghaib. But if they say no, we don't know. Now, for instance, we came to know that in Sri Lanka, for instance, I was reading this sad news that the government is cremating everyone, Muslim otherwise, yes, and that's by law. So in cases like this, if somebody comes and say, my mom was dad was there, then we have to pray Salat al-Ghaib.
So just to recap, Sheikh, you're saying and suggesting that if salah has already been done once, it suffices.
Absolutely.
And dua can be made by the family.
Actually, it's better in these cases than even the prayer, because some people consider the bid'ah, because the Prophet didn't pray, people used to die, and they don't come and pray them. The incident that people count on it is Najashi, because Najashi, when he died, nobody prayed Janazah. The Prophet prayed Salat al-Ghaib, and that was the first incident we have.
Sheikh Ala, we can transition to you with another question coming in. Someone is saying, my family member passed away in these times from this illness. And I'm wondering, is this person punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How do I make sense of it? How do I deal with the emotional aspect of losing someone at this time? Sheikh Ala, tfaddal.
It's a very good question indeed, and it is. May Allah have mercy upon them and make it easy for the parents and the family and the loved ones. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called it musibat al-maut. It is a musibah, it's a calamity to lose a loved one. And again, give them the good news, inshallah, that the scholars say it's a mercy upon the believers and a discipline upon the non-believers. So it is a waker-upper for those who don't believe. Maybe they will come back. But if somebody among the believers die in this type of a stage, it's actually a mercy. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَيَخْتَارُ مِنْكُمْ شُهَدَاءَ. Allah chooses who is honored by the rank of martyrs. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He chooses. So if they're chosen, I am happy for you, wallahi. Because we said before that the time will not change with one fraction of a second. We already named that the hadith says 120 days of the womb, the angels come in and they write 4 things, among them your umr, your lifespan. So your lifespan is granted and guaranteed at 120 days in the womb. Nothing will change. وَلَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُرُوجٍ مُشَيَّدَةٍ. Even if you were in fortified citadels, fortresses, لَبَرَزَ الَّذِي قُتِبَ عَلَيْهِ الْمَوْتِ. خلاص, those ones they're supposed to die, they will come up. No nukes, no power on the face of the earth will ever be able to stop the angel of death. He doesn't make an appointment. He doesn't knock on a door. He doesn't take permission. He just comes. So we just have to be ready for that. Coming back to the question, some of the scholars says, إِذَا فَسَدَ الْجَسَدِ قَبْلَ خُرُوجِ الرُّوحِ فَهُوَ دَرَجَ مِنَ الشَّهَادَةِ. If the body spoils before the soul leaves the body, it is a rank of martyrdom. Not necessarily the highest rank, because the highest rank, أَن تَكُونَ كَلِمَةُ اللَّهِ الْعُلْيَا. Therefore, the proper, I don't want to say the word, the J word. You know the word? We don't want to... You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm sorry, I don't mean to belittle anything, but I'm just saying this is the highest rank of martyrdom. And Prophet Muhammad says, "Shuhada ummati kathir." The martyrs in my ummah are plenty. The one that actually dies for the sake of Allah, for the what we say, the proper matter, under the proper stages and so on, rules and regulations, and even al-ghariq wal-hariq wal-mabtun. والمهدوم والمرأة تضع. So غريق, the one that drowns. حريق, the one that is burned. مهدوم is the one that the building collapses upon. And mabtun is the terminal illness. Or anything happens that it's something that's from the inside. And that they say that is among the also ranks of the martyrdom, including one narration says, and even a woman dies while she's giving birth. And that's the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So please don't ever think it's a punishment of Allah. La wallahi. Nuhsin billahi dhann. We always have positive thoughts about Allah. And this rank, and brothers and sisters, we ask for the ranks of shuhada. They're mentioned so highly and granted in the Quran. And the scholar says, if you are sincere asking Allah to grant you the ranks of the shuhada, وَلَوْ مَاتَ عَلَى فِرَاشِهِ, Allah will grant you martabat al-shuhada, will grant you the ranks of shuhada, even if you die in your bed. So we ask Allah to grant him the rank of shuhada and have mercy upon us all and never despair of Allah's mercy. Indeed, it is actually a good sign. So he passed the test. We ask Allah to make him so. It is for us now to pass our own test.
Jazakumullah khair, Shaykh. May Allah bless you and your family. A lot of people at home, Shaykh, are thanking you for doing this and thanking the team. May Allah bless you. And this takes me to a question to Shaykh Ahmed Salim. Shaykh, let's say someone passes away from this in a family. What should the family do step by step? Should they contact the masjid? What should they do step by step?
Good. So, so alhamdulillah, the last 2 days has been an exceptional learning experience. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, never put anybody through this situation. But if such a situation happens, first and foremost, don't be sad. As the Shaykh mentioned, that person is going to be from a shaheed, from the shuhada. So that's a moment of like, you say, alhamdulillah that Allah has given him a very high status. Then comes the reality of life. The reality hits, and you can't just say he's a shaheed and say, khalas, we're gonna sit here. So what happens is, if it's a presumptive death, it can change. So for those of you that are gonna watch this video later, it might change the way things are changing. And I was on phone this morning with them, and they're like, this is what we have today, and maybe 2 days down the road we'll have a new regulation. We don't know yet, right? Depends on the deaths. So in any case, what's happening as it stands, they will release the body, but it will not be released to any of the masajid. It will be released to a certified funeral home, and they will put the cause of death, COVID. If they are doubtful that the cause was COVID related, they will put presumptive COVID, which means in a presumptive COVID case, the families will not have to go into quarantine. They will have their normal life, but they're recommended to go into a 14-day quarantine. And then they will contact the masjid. The masjid is going to get in touch. They will have to contact us. We are the ones that will contact the graveyard, get the graves ready, get all the paperwork, get the death certificates, everything. So ISNA or any other masjid will be, the masjid that are doing that will facilitate that. Then what happens is, the next step is the funeral home is not going to allow for the family to enter the funeral home. So the funeral home is not going to allow the family to enter. The family, the limited number of people, the 10 that we mentioned, including the imam and stuff, so they might have 5 or 6 people, will go to the cemetery. We will take care of all the logistics in reference to the death certificates, opening the grave, and you will be dealing with primarily Brother Farid and Brother Muhammad Patel. They have been exceptional in this time. Brother Farid being an elder in our community, he's over 70, but mashallah, may Allah protect him. He hasn't given the mantle. He's now working from home. He's doing social distancing. We want to also protect him. May Allah preserve him and protect him and keep his iman, inshallah. And then after that, the body goes from the funeral home. Nobody is with that body. It is in the cascade. It's a sad reality, but we're not allowed to do anything with that. So as the Shaykh mentioned, in an AIDS body, the bag comes sealed, and it's there. You're not allowed to do anything with the body. So the body is taken as is into the cascade. It goes straight to the funeral cemetery. Over there, the family members can be there. And then once the Turner Porter or any other company that is delivering the hearse, that is bringing the body, when they drop the body and they leave, at that point, you're allowed to get off the car, pray your Janazah Salah with the Shaykh over there. And we will facilitate that over here for ISNA. So it's, today Shaykh Ala, he took it. Someday it will be Shaykh Hussam. We're going to protect Shaykh Abdullah. So we're, we're going to alleviate this burden off you, inshallah. And then if there is a need, then I'll be there. So we will go and perform those janazahs over there. After that, you will leave. And then the family will do the cemetery staff are going to complete the burial. Having said that, a lot of people were very sad, and I was getting WhatsApp messages related to this. And I think what's more important than burial is remembering the person who is deceased after he has gone in your du'as, doing sadaqah jariya for him. That helps him a lot more than your agony about how he's being treated. And I think that is a point that is missed in this whole conversation. I know that it's a shock. Honestly speaking, it was a shock for me when I heard this morning that this is how it's going to happen. It took me a while to come to my senses that this is the reality. But as the Sheikh already mentioned, that in such circumstances, our Sharia, إذا ضاق الأمر اتسع الأمر. يعني if the matter becomes difficult, then Sharia becomes expansive. It encompasses ease. It allows us to have those eases so that no other people could not be harmed. So yes, go ahead, Sheikh.
No, but I really want to say this. This can happen to anyone.
Any one of us.
It can happen to us directly. It can happen to our families. Everyone. No one is exempt. This thing is really unpredictable. So we don't want people to think we're just doing it for somebody. We're doing it for ourselves as well, and we have to be prepared for that. All of us.
Yes.
And as I said, there is no, I mean, I know people feel they become emotional, but the risk is high.
Very
and actually in Islam, to protect a living person is more weighty than treating a dead person. So you have to be careful about this. This is why, I had one of the brothers from Palestine, he's a physician, and it's something that really struck me. He said, if you go and transmit this to somebody and this person dies, you will be answerable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You could have protected the person by protecting yourself and keep yourself away from them. So this is what we wanted. Secondly, and even if, by the way, some families also will keep saying people sometimes come from overseas, they want to come for now, everybody is held. People cannot manage it. Many people are very emotional. Your father dies in Toronto and you are in Los Angeles. Now you cannot fly. You cannot come, or they held you in the airport, they might quarantine you. There might be all kinds of things. So we need to accept all of this and deal with them as they are. The deen is wide, as you said, and everything is open for us, inshallah. We just pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us safe, make it easier for us, inshallah, and then give us that capacity to handle it if it happens.
So the second part of that answer is so this was for the presumptive case. If the case is confirmed COVID, then the family is going to go into quarantine and they will not be able to participate in the janazah, which is a very painful reality. But I think it's important for people to be prepared for that this is a reality that you were with that person. So if it became a confirmed case, by this time the authorities would have already reached out to you, and if they were diagnosed with COVID, then they would have already told you to go in quarantine. So if the person does die, then you have to trust the masjid that we will ensure that we will do all the possible rites that we can perform in line with the Canadian regulations, so that we're able to fulfill the rights of that brother in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our fard kifaya, but also the rights of the society that we live in, and not putting anybody else in danger. Having said that, after you're in quarantine, you can go and visit the grave. That's absolutely fine. While you're in quarantine, please do sadaqah. It does not prevent you to go online and do a sadaqah dig a well for one of your relatives. Do the sadaqah now. Put it in his name. It's one of the best khairat you can do for him. Open a school if you can do that. Like whatever you can. That is far better than the agony that we might have that we were not able to participate in that funeral.
Jazakumullah khair. May Allah bless you and give you Jannat Firdaus, Ya Rabb. Ameen. One of the sisters is asking, and this question comes up quite often, Sheikh Ala, in this difficult time, people react at different levels, and it takes time for people to process what's happening. And so some sisters feel like they have to really drop everything else and focus on istighfar and focus on ibadah, and life becomes very distasteful. People become suspended or detached from many emotions. So people are reacting at different levels. So one sister is asking, how do I make sure that I maintain my sanity? I don't do so much istighfar that I don't give my family their time, my children their time. And also, is it okay to watch, things, read books, or should I just be focusing on ibadah completely at this time? Sheikh Ala, tafaddal.
Okay, so that's a very good question indeed. So I'm gonna refer to Ibn Qayyim rahmatullah alayh. He says, he gave us the bird method. Right? He says the human being should be like a tayyib. Al-khawf wal-raja, wa ra'sul amr at-taqwa. He says we should have two wings like a bird. One wing has the al-khawf, meaning fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to anger him and the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and hellfire. And the other wing is the hope of Allah's mercy, longing to the love of Allah and acquiring or attaining the paradise, which is the ultimate reward from Allah to us. And to keep it all balanced, the head has to have the taqwa, especially when you're all alone, and to keep the balance between love and fear, as we talked about. However, my dear sister, if you're going to go through the 5 stages of the emotional, denial, anger, and all of that stuff, you're a human being, and I understand that totally. As long as that does not keep you away from being despairing of Allah's mercy. If you get to the portion where you despair of Allah's mercy, everything is doomed, you know what, everybody's going to hellfire, that's it, I can never come back, my sins are greater than Allah's mercy, that's when the scholars warn you, you cannot exceed that level. But if that feeling keeps you on the straight and narrow, that is a good feeling, that's a healthy one. Otherwise, you're listening to shaitan, because la yaqnat min rahmatillah, except those people are you haven't had the mercy of Allah, ruhillah. Yes? So please understand, ukhti, this is a good healthy sign. But even Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when the sun and the moon, and when people saying, here's the stars, even they're saddened for the death of Ibrahim alayhi salam, his son, he says the sun and the moon and the stars, all of these are signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're not saddened or pleased by the death of any human being. Yes? So you keep things in perspective, and that's why Islam gave you 3 days to mourn. That's it. So 3 days is it's a long, healthy chance to be able to gradually cope with the loss of a loved one. And as I said earlier, it's a musibah, calamity. But other scholars says musibah meaning it's target. That means there's a target in the back of every one of us, and that arrow that is released by the angel of death is already let go, and it's coming for you la mahala, no way out. Either or, the way you look at it, we just have to be prepared for it. When Prophet Muhammad was asked, Mata sa'a, when is the hour? He didn't tell him the 10 signs of a major and the 99 or plus of the minor. What did his answer was? He says, Ma a'dadtu laha, and what have you prepared for it? And that is kafa bil mawti wa'idha. It is sufficient of a death to be admonishing, waking you up. This is an alarm. It's a waker-upper. Nadir. It's a warner. So we should heed to that. May Allah protect you, ukhti. Never despair of Allah's mercy. And may Allah have mercy upon your deceased. And keep us on the straight and narrow with the love and fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the hidden taqwa. Wallahu.
Ameen. To add on to that, Shaykhna, may Allah bless you and give you Jannat Firdaus. Just want to remind people that we have counseling provided at the masjid. If anyone wants to continue via phone, Shaykh Abdullah has made himself accessible. He's shared his phone publicly. All our lines, for the most part, are still working. Alhamdulillah, you can get in touch with us. But please do remember that the demand is high at this time, so it might take a little bit of time to get in touch and get back to you. And also the Khalil Center is available, accepting counseling cases also, inshallah, if that is a possibility for you. Sheikh, one of you can take, inshallah, the question that's coming from Sister Nusrat, and it's a difficult question. And that is, let's say a person is a senior. Let's say they're past 90. They're very old. And they're told, you can take a ventilator. But they say, you know what? Can I choose to give up the ventilator so someone else can be saved who's younger? So this altruistic form of, self-sacrifice or, self-harm in this specific case, is that acceptable? To give someone else the chance to live if you believe you've led a productive, healthy, long life?
Now that is something that's very generous, more than generous too, but it's acceptable on 2 ways. One, there is an incident that happened during the time of Rasulullah, the woman who was talking water, she went to the first, they said go for the second, the third. By the time she reached the third, she said the first. By the time everybody died. So nobody condemned that. We say that if an incident like this, that's number one. Number two, by the way, sometimes they don't allow you this. I was saddened by a news that I get from Britain, from a hospital, where a person point blank said, if we get 2 people like 70 and so on, we tell them it's better for us to handle a younger person than you. A person of faith like us would say, this life is the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Somebody might, sometimes they stop the machine, all these machines that we have. I told you, have an incident here in Toronto, where a brother and people the family might be online. The brother survived 3.5 years without a ventilator. They didn't know why, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but to still that sacrifice, yes, it is permissible if a person says, if there are 2 people in 2 beds, and then they have 1 ventilator, and this old man says, give it to the young man. There's nothing wrong for that.
Just to add to that, not from the fiqh perspective, but more from like the logistics perspective, that case or that scenario is a highly unlikely scenario based on how the triage that they're doing in the hospitals. So if you are over a certain age already, like you would not be given that option anyway. So based on the hospital and talking to a lot of the doctors, the triage that is already taking place, that the preference is given to those. So if somebody is of that age, they're already, so that's a highly unlikely scenario, and that's a scenario that I think sometimes doctors will also ascertain. So they know that the chances of the person's survival are like 85% on a ventilator, and they will say yes. And if they know that the chance is like 10-12%, then they won't even make that, because we're in a crunch for ICU beds, and it's only going to get worse as we go on. Allah help us in this situation, inshallah.
I mean, so the sister who's asking, I believe it's Sister Ihsan, she's asking for the counseling information. We've pasted that in the chat. And for marriage counseling, you can refer directly to Sheikh Abdullah Idris if it's a couple that would prefer to speak with someone senior. And if you're a young couple about to get married, I can take it, inshallah, or Sheikh Ala can take it just to unload, inshallah, the load from Sheikh.
Anyway, I'm receiving a lot of calls. Yesterday, I received about 10 calls, and I was on for until 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock people. Today, I came to the office, 7 or 8, all of them. Unfortunately, I said this before, there's a lot of tension in homes now, because all the husbands are housed. Before it was leave. Now everybody's on the neck of the other person, and they're telling me. So please, as I said to you, I personally have absolutely no reservation receiving calls anytime. And I gave you my cell phone because my cell phone is actually in my business card. So it's not something that I'm doing you a favor or anything. So I'm going to say it again, it's 647-893-9581. Please don't hesitate to call me. Sometimes a phone call solves the problem. As I've said, sometimes it does. People are at the brink of either leaving home or calling the police or doing this. A phone call will save them all of this trouble.
Inshallah. May Allah preserve you.
And as I said before, my cell phone number is 967-1111. Call Pizza Hey.
Jazakumullah khair. May Allah bless you.
I'm sorry. Wallahi,
and my cell phone is 911.
No, I'll tell you what. Sheikh Abdullah is my teacher, Muallimi Ustadi, and it's okay. It's okay. It is time. It's time to step up. And my number is not public, but it's time. Wallahi, I was telling Brother Shihab, even though our number is not public, but it just gets around. I have no idea how. It's out there anyway. So take my number if I can help in any way, because this is time. And I was telling him, wallahi, I am busier now than before. We're getting so many questions, so many calls, so many. They just don't know what to do, what happens, and things are changing. So you know what? On record, my number is 647-226-2522. So all you have to remember is 647-226, because my last 4 digits is my name. I didn't ask for this. The other organization gave me this number that actually asked for this. It's ALAA. So it's
647-226 Ala.
Yeah, that's right. So Allah help us, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khair. I know that Shayaoukh get we get a lot of calls, a lot of messages, and it gets tense sometimes. So to give that public, or to give that number publicly, it's a big deal, Sheikh. May Allah bless you both and give you Jannat Firdaus. Sheikh Ahmed, it's your turn now, because the
Hussam is next week, and then I will follow after. So Hussam will release next week, and the week after, inshallah, Ramadan.
I need to say this to you. Always, when you have physical meetings with people, it saves a lot of time. When you are on the phone, first you get the waste out of people. People are very dry, and it takes a long time. I have been doing this. I prefer to meet with people in a meeting than to go over the phone. But due to the circumstances, this is the only way we have. So you have to be patient with them.
Do you guys use the headphone? Or do you use headphone, or you just put your heads? No, we need to get Sheikh some headphones.
Alhamdulillah.
Not good.
One sister is asking, Sheikh Ala has already stopped doing couples counseling. He has, alhamdulillah, because he's focused on other things within the organization. But if it's an emergency, once in a while, he'll take a case if it's needed, inshallah. Which takes us to another question, Shayaoukh. And this question is coming from medical experts during this time. We were having a meeting and a discussion a few days ago, and doctors have to make very difficult decisions now about who to save and who to give ventilators to. So the question is, being a physician or a healthcare worker or a frontline worker, how do you make that decision of who lives and who dies?
I don't think it's a matter of he makes a decision who lives or who dies, because that's in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As I said to you, I personally had so many cases. I lived through this myself. At one time I was told I have 5 years to live, and I laughed at the doctor. I told him, I hope you died before me, and he did die.
He died before you.
Because these people sometimes think, because what I always say to the doctors, use your consciousness. The patient that's in front of you, think of him as your father or your mother, if they are all your wife or your son, and make a decision based on that. Because then you'll be sincere. And that's the time when you have to just use your consciousness, because you have to assess cases, especially when you have to make difficult choices between two persons. You need to at least save one, you cannot do the other. By the way, one of the things that also I went through it, and I learned a lesson from it. Like at one time, my wife has faced this, because they told her she was pregnant. They said to her, it's one of two. Either you die or your baby dies. Right? That's right, point blank. And this is a Muslim doctor, but they're not only one, 2 doctors. My wife said, listen, I don't care, I want to die, my son died, but I don't. Alhamdulillah, she survived it. But Islamically, the fuqaha say, if you have a choice between saving a mother or a child, you can sacrifice the child for the mother, because the mother can give a child. Yeah, this is a fiqh position. But sometimes you just
a pregnant mother.
Pregnant, yeah. Because they said, yeah, it's pregnant. Yeah, if a woman is pregnant, and they told you, they told me, by the way, he told this, I'm living this, I'm not saying it. They told me point blank, one of them can die, either your wife or the baby. And my wife said, no, I don't care. I just don't want my baby to be removed.
So to summarize, like they have to use their conscience
That's
to say
it.
that.
And then,
what if this is our
my own mother, my own father,
father,
my own sister, the people that I'm looking to, because use your consciousness. And I know it's not easy to use that. And they can do that kind of judgment, they know about. Or at times also you consult with another person. Because
what happens if they did make that decision? So I think that question is emanating sometimes because they make that decision, 2 days down the road they realize that they took the wrong decision. So are they held liable?
No. If you make a decision, it's like the judge. Yeah. What the Prophet ﷺ said, if you make a proper decision, Allah give you 2 rewards, because if not, you do one, because you made the rik'ah. So if you use your consciousness, and then you consult, even for us, sometimes it's difficult to make decisions. People call us, just last week, I go to this sister, and she's dying. Everybody, she told them no. Because now we go what the fuqaha say, what the experts say, and so on and so on. Alhamdulillah, 2 days down the road, she died without removing a machine or anything.
There is an opinion that I heard, if I may add. I read some of the fiqh al-waqi', and even including fiqh al-aqliyat and so on. He says that sometimes you cannot make a decision according to that the question who lives and who dies, because as Sheikh Abdullah said, it's in the hand of Allah. But if you have to give something and to choose whether the ventilator goes to this person, that person, his opinion is to make a draw. Put the names in and everyone it's fair. So no one is actually picked. This is with absolutely extreme circumstances, and there is no choice except of this only amount of ventilators we have. And let's say 5 ventilators, we have 7 people. So the names of the 7 people goes in, and the names are drawn. Those who are drawn get the ventilators, and it's fair. It's not based on your skin color, your gender, your ethnicity, and your language, and so on. So that's an opinion I read. Wallahu a'lam, God knows best.
Jazakumullah khairan. May Allah bless you and give you Jannat Firdaus. And also the Imam Council is meeting, inshallah, to give more guidelines for healthcare workers and people on the front lines, inshallah. And those guidelines, inshallah, like you've mentioned, will be in more details, inshallah, for those who are looking for them. Jazakumullah khairan wa barakallah fikum. And speaking of, you mentioned earlier that this is a time to find creative ways to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a very heated debate now. As we're going into the 5th week of no Jumu'ah in the masjid, people are now emotionally reacting and asking, can we pray Jumu'ah virtually? Can the Imam lead from the masjid? And can we join via Wi-Fi, via our phones? And some Imams have already come out and said this is a darura, it's a necessary situation. So they've given the permission, or they've opened that door. And now people are confused, asking, can we do it? Can we not do it? So what's our official stance at ISNA, and how are we going to, inshallah, respond in both ways to those who are saying you can, and what's our position, inshallah, as a community?
Fine. In this regards, I always say this: A, B, and C. A, if there is a text in the Quran, we are bound by it, especially if it's explicit. If no text in the Quran, we go to the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If not, we go to the scholars, because this is being worked this way. أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم. Now, most of what we are talking about now are new, but certain incidents happen. You know, there are times when people couldn't do Hajj, they couldn't do Umrah, the Kaaba was flooded, and some people actually tried to do Tawaf by swimming and they drowned. And some of the scholars blamed them for why you go and drown yourself if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not do for it. Now, so anything other than that, this is fiqh al-nawazil, right? That's the scholars say. I personally think, as Rasulullah says, لا تجتمع أمتي, not one community, not على ضلال. I think this, alhamdulillah, I used to appreciate the fiqh council, alhamdulillah, because for anything they used to connect with other fiqh councils, even although they are scholars and so on. So I think this is one of the issues that have been discussed by them in the Muslim world. Most of the scholars so far that I have found, all of them said, no, Jum'ah has to be in a masjid, you have to be in a mosque, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not pray in the masjid, we can pray Zuhr. So if the Imam's Council or the fiqh committees come to a conclusion like this, and by the way, this is going to be more serious in Ramadan. Many people are asking now, can we pray Taraweeh with Imam, like can an Imam be in a mosque, and then we, how to say, what they call, transmit this through lines, and people can pray, and people are debating it. So my opinion is that this should be like a general consensus of most of the fuqaha. If they say yes, then we're bound. I don't see any problem there. I don't know what you think.
I mean, this is ijtihad, as Sheikh Abdullah alluded to. It is ijtihad. I mean, we looked into it. I tried to go into fiqh muqaran on this and look at all the scholars. Everybody has their own opinion that says la inkara ma ikhtilaf. So our teachers told us, la inkara ma ikhtilaf, which means what? You cannot refute or deny an opinion of a scholarly opinion that has their proof from Quran and Sunnah, or even whether it's ijtihad or qiyas or whatever it is that you want to go according to your own school of thought. Accordingly, that we will say we accept according to your best of knowledge and best of attempt. There is an opinion says that the Jum'ah is done where people actually live in a qarya, in a village that has homes that are not made of. They will actually go into details, believe it or not, into not only the area where people are not traveling, you're living, and an area where people have a dwelling, not just little things that you're traveling, a wayfarer on a journey and so on, the no man's land type of thing. And also the masajid has to also have conditions that they pray the 5 times prayer, including in the Jum'ah. That is called the masjid. And the Jama'ah, they also differed upon the numbers. Whether is it 2, is it 3, is it 4, is it 40, is it 12? And everybody has their own opinion in ijtihad. Wallahu a'lam. So that we're going to leave. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَنبِطُونَهُ. Those actually the people of knowledge, and if we don't know, and those who do istinbat, they derive the very fine details from something that is come in Quran and Sunnah, and they have that. We have them amongst us. So we inshallah listen to them. Wallahu a'lam. God knows best.
Now, the only thing that I also want to add, it's not everybody who becomes a faqih or a sheikh, or every family and so on and so on. There is a system in Islam. I mean, the thing that I wanted, let me quote it for you directly, and you know the verse. You know when the Sahaba, after the Battle of Badr, right? Battle of Uhud, a number of Sahaba died. Allah revealed this verse to the Prophet. وَمَا كَانَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ لِيَنْفِرُوا كَافَّةً فَلَوْلَا نَفَرَ مِنْ كُلِّ فِرْقَةٍ منهم طائفة ليتفقهوا في الدين ولينذر قومهم إذا رجعوا لعلهم يحذرون. Right? يعني Allah said not everybody is a faqih, not everybody كده. There is a select group who specialize in this. They do that and so on. And the other verse that he also mentioned, he said ولو ردوه إلى الرسول وإلى أولي الأمر منهم. And the verse came لعلمه الذين يستنبطونه منه. So this is why even in issues like this, I don't think even us, we don't qualify as fuqaha or kira. We are students at best. Yeah. We read, we study, we do this. But if there is a consensus about this, and I think there is a lively debate going on now in the Muslim world at large, and these questions are going to the major fiqh councils, and it's going to be debated, to be discussed. If people build consensus on it, we'll be bound by it, inshallah.
And just to add to that, I think just specifically us living in the West, where problems actually happen within our community is that when we import fiqh council fatwas from like the East without taking into the context of the West. So alhamdulillah, we're blessed that in North America, we have very, very strong fiqh bodies, whether they're in US, even in Europe. So recommendation also from our side is also that keep in mind that, importing something that happened in Egypt or Saudi and you apply it over here is not very relevant. We have scholars who have trained classically within Canada, within US. They are part of fiqh council bodies that exist in North America, and the preference is given to them because they understand the context and the rules, or at least they have the closest understanding of the type of city and regulations that we would be living in, and their opinion should be given preference over those that are in the Eastern countries. With all due respect to them, we learn from them, we can read from them, but to copy and paste that, which we see a lot of times, is not very healthy for our communities.
Allah bless you and give you Jannat Firdaus. And as it stands, the Imam Council's perspective on this, or final verdict on this, has been to pray Dhuhr at home, to not pray Jum'ah virtually.
You can have, because I know they're discussing this now.
Yeah, you can have the khutbah done by the Imam virtually, but then the Salat al-Dhuhr done at home. So that's the opinion that we're all adopting at this time. If the consensus of the Imam Council changes, inshallah, we'll keep you updated. But it's important for us, I think, as ISNA, to maintain unity and to keep the community, inshallah, united. So our recommendation for everyone is please stick with the community's opinion, with the Imam Council's opinion. And inshallah, even if there are disputes or disagreements, let's bring it to the table, inshallah. Let's have that conversation happen in a central way so that we can all benefit and inshallah come to a consensus. We have, Sheikh, another question coming here. And this one is about how to spend the time at home. Practically speaking, how should I divide my time? Give me some practical steps in order for me to balance my life at home and not to be overly intrusive in my wife's life and not overly intrusive in my children's life. And what's the best thing to do? And you've given us some advice regarding that last week, Sheikh, with the Mayaf. So maybe some more advice from any of the mashayikh.
Actually, this is, I always consider it depends, it's very circumstantial. Yeah, for instance, in our house, my son goes online because he's still working from home. Right? My daughter-in-law, she's studying, she goes online, she has classes. My grandchildren, 3 of them go online because they take their schooling for online. So basically they are busy exactly the same way they are. And we have to put so many restrictions on the little ones being kept in our rooms and not to disturb otherwise. That's generally. Alhamdulillah, since this happened now, all our children, we have the azan for Fajr, we pray Fajr together, we schedule the time, everybody has it. Actually, I started the class with my kids now because I'm reviewing the recitation of the Quran. Most of them are born here. From time to time, we say, okay, you have to check on them and so on. So there's lots of things you can do. There is a sister who calls me, I don't want to embarrass her, to mention her name. She has started a program for her kids on the stories of the Prophet, sometimes on that, like the Islamic studies course in the house. There are some brothers who told me, like we have a halaqah also in the house where children are being trained to make presentation, they read something. People can occupy their time in a way that if they are working, if they are going to school, if they are going, because it depends. And I always say that you can use this. But the best thing to do is this is the time when each and every one of us should sit, alhamdulillah, and review your own lifetime. You think about yourself, you think about what you have been doing, where you are short, and now you will have a lot of time in your hand. And you ask yourself where this time was used before, how we do it. So to me personally, I think every circumstance depends on that. I don't know what you want to say. And there's no template.
I don't find any time on my hand. I have a growing family, and I need to snatch that time from, it's like from 7 a.m. in the morning till I arrive. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with a family. But I agree with you. I think little steps, and I mentioned this last time when Sheikh Ala was also talking about it, that YouTube is filled with really, really, really good content. Like in English, there is no excuse. Podcasts that you can download. Great opportunity to connect your children, all of us, Like, with the seerah of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you have, Abdul Nasir Jangda, you have Sheikh Yasir Qadi, excellent series of seerah. Like, this is a great opportunity rather than binge watching Netflix. By the way, they're curtailing it down from 4K to 1080p, so you won't be able to use that fancy screen of yours now. But I think one crucial product that is going to be required if you're working in a home with kids, specifically Canadian homes because they're made out of like drywall, is going to be noise cancelling headphones. I'm telling you, without that, your life is not going to be the same. I mean, like those things that you need to, if you have to invest in them, because you put them on and you are in a different world. They can be screaming around you. You won't have any noise because you're focused on work. But it is very difficult. It's a real challenge to be able to work and do live streams, and you have to like set the settings. Nobody talk. I'm about to go live. Right? And then they show up in the middle of the stream. Like you're talking to the camera and you're going like, move away. So, those are realities of life.
Sure. There's a few things actually. Amazingly, today I was another organization that was actually in Malaysia, and we were on the air this morning, and we discussed the same thing too. It seems to be a very common question now, right across the board. Everybody's asking about the same thing. How do I deal with this human being next to me? I had no idea
what he could be.
And now you're rediscovering this person. Who the heck is this person here? What do I do with this thing? And then you're discovering also not just your spouse, you're discovering your children. All of a sudden you're actually spending the whole day with these lovely bundles of joy. And then, the average statistics, they show that especially the man, the father spends the average of 20 to 60 minutes a day on average. All of a sudden you're spending all these hours, not minutes, with your children. Who are these brain damaged people that I have to? You know what, brothers? Let's be honest. Most of our time when the children come to us, we give them this look, right? They're talking to us and we have no idea what they're talking about us, and our answer is almost always the same. No. Where is your mother? So let's now rediscover that, and I have a proposal for you. First proposal is your parents. If you have your parents living with you, this is your key to Jannah. Wallahi, if you're lucky enough that you have one or both of your parents living with you, Allahu Akbar. You are the luckiest person I know. Take advantage of it before it's too late. So I gave a homework and I'm going to give you again. I'm just telling you, every morning, you're going to kiss the hand of your mother and the forehead of your father. I've explained it before. Just a quick reminder, inshallah. First thing, this is the hand that bathed you, raised you, fed you, cleaned you, wiped the tears off the eyes, shaded the sun, and petted your hair. This is the hand that reached for you to carry you, and so on and so forth, to raise who you are today. So you kiss that hand every day in the morning, every day at night. And wallahi, you will see the difference in your life. There's so much barakah Allah will give you that you won't even know what happened here. How did I get this? And so on. And the forehead of your father, because that's where the sweat poured, to put roof over your head, clothes on your back, and food on the table. That means every day in the morning, when they wake up, I kiss my mother's hand, I kiss my father's forehead. And before they go to sleep, same thing. Kiss my mother's hand and kiss the father's forehead. And these children, by the way, they're a reflection of you. You know what that means? Your children are going to narrate what you have written for your own parents. So they're a book that you have written, and your children are narrating your own documentation with your own parents. Isn't that amazing? That's why Prophet Muhammad said, "Birru aba'akum tabarrukum abna'akum." Be good to your parents, and your children will be good to you. So this is a golden opportunity. Now here's the catch. I want you to get to know your children all over again. Means what? I'm actually going to get to know them, not with a number. Hey, number one, what's your name? Come here, son. Go. No. We're going to actually get to know them, and we're going to get to know the secrets. They're going to run to us, not run away from us, with open arms. We're going to have a halaqah every day, as we mentioned before. Delegate the responsibilities to them. Share something with them. Go back to the 21 theory. First 7 years, like Ali ibn Abi Talib used to say, the TLC, not the channel. Then the love and care, the real. And the second 7 is the do's and don'ts. Yes, muru alaykum li sab'. That's the 7. So now you tell them what's wrong, what is right, what is halal, what is haram, what is acceptable, not acceptable, according to urf and everything else, the tradition. And the last third, the 7 days, of befriend them. Khalas, then you know where your children are, and that's when you become their friends, right? You should be able to have secrets with one another. You should know all of this stuff. And the last key I'm going to give you is the key for your Jannah. Whether you like it or not, my dear brother, your wife is your key to Jannah, to be with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because he said that, I keep saying that, wallahi, in the weddings. He says, "Inna aqrabakum ilayya mawaddata wa aqrabakum ilayya yawm al-qiyamah ahsanukum akhlaq." The most beloved to my heart, and close to me hereafter, the most beloved to it is what? This is the best of character. And the scholars will tell you that's the reason. Your wife is your key for that, because Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the best of you men, the best is wife, because your wife knows your character. Yes? You know, you miss the masajid, you come in here and you say, you know what? I come and pray and I'll do all of that, but your prayer, Sheikh, has a fruit, has a key. And that key is your akhlaq. And that's why the scholar says your wife knows your akhlaq. That's the fruit of your ibadah. And that's why Prophet Muhammad says that she is, that's the closest to me. And that's your key. And my dear sister, please, when you look at your husband, that you may, I've seen so many videos and I got it, you know. Everybody's talking about it now, and I get so many videos that you know what you have to do and all of that stuff. But now all I want you to do, my sister, is when you look at your husband, I want you to think of, I don't know who's really hot nowadays. I mean, he's not been out of the Americas for a long time, and I don't have time to watch this stuff. I remember George Clooney, all right? How was that? That was like a long time ago, or whatever that is.
That was an espresso time ago.
That was a long time ago, khalas yani, whatever it is. I'm an old guy now, come on, man. Okay, so you think about it as whatever your favorite person is.
Chris Hemsworth.
Oh, that Aussie. Oh, shrimp on a Barbie. I gotcha. Okay, all you have to remember is like Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. This guy is going to look like Prophet Yusuf alayhi Jannah. Do you believe it? Yes, this guy that looks like this, he's going to look like Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. Don't think of just the receding hairlines and the biryani belly now. No. This guy's going to be amazing. He's going to write you poems. He's going to give you chocolate. He's going to give you flowers. This guy's going to be six-pack, buff. I'm telling you, really. All that stuff is going to be there. Just be patient. Be patient. He's your key to Jannah, ukhti. Prophet, he is your Jannah. He is your heaven. He is your hell. So he's a master key. You're a key, but he's a master key. Because he's the key that closes the gates of hellfire, and he's the key that opens the gates of Jannah. Okay? How lucky are you now? You're lucky, right? So be patient with one another. Raise your rank. Rediscover yourself. Have another hobby. Read a book together. Rediscover each other hobby and go with it. Read a menu with different glasses. Redo your vows. Live your life again. Redo your marriage. Live your life. You wanted the white horse on the beach, the guy coming down in slow motion, and then with a thingy with the birds and that. Oh, redo it. You're inside. Have your kids walking around with some air or something. Get a fan going. His hair. You understand? You know what I'm going? That's what you do. Allah help us, inshallah.
Allah
I think that's a signal that Sheikh Allah says we should end here.
Yes, please.
Jazakumullah khair. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you for taking the time. May Allah give you Jannat Firdaus. One last question, inshallah, to end on a positive note. Sheikh Abdullah, young people are asking, what's the story of Sheikh Abdullah Idris' success? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses people and empowers them and rewards them and gives them the opportunity to serve and to teach and to help for a reason. So it may be difficult to put you on the spot, but the purpose of this question is to advise young people. What should they do to be put in a position where they're empowered by Allah to serve?
There is a young brother, subhanAllah. You might be listening to me. Every time he comes to me in the office, asks me this question. He says, I want to be like you. What made you like this? I said, Wallah, I asked myself the question, I failed to answer it. Because you never know. Things sometimes happen that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses you without you planning something to me. I am one of the people, I always say this, and Allah knows it, that long time ago, I gave up on planning anything. Because everything I now go, especially in Canada, by the way, I ended up in Canada, and I'm going to say this, I said it before we met, I've heard it now, it's going to be on record. I didn't even know where Toronto is. I never heard about Toronto. As a matter of fact, I used to hear about Vancouver, Quebec, but never Toronto. Toronto was the last I thought about. I don't know why. And so many things contributed in me coming here. We didn't plan to come here for what we are. And I said this before many times. And I sometimes look back and I say now I've been 43 years here. I had 8 children born here, have 3 children buried here. And all of this I see is planned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for some reason who put me in this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I don't know. And as I said to you, I failed to say why. يعني بعدين, is it really success? Is it really a test for me? Is it something that Allah, you never know. So when you ask yourself all these hard questions, all what I have, just like this Sahabi who said, when they qualified him for paradise, and he said, Wallahi, ma huwa illa ma ra'ayt. Except that when I go back to my bed every night, I don't have any envy or jealousy of something. As a matter of fact, this is me. نعم. And this is me. يعني people don't know this, but I care so much about Muslims. I don't sleep without praying. You would be surprised what my every night I go to, before I go to bed every night, maybe for the last, 20 years or so, I don't sleep without reading Surah Al-Saydah. I prolong the Saydah and I pray to everyone you can imagine. Yani people sometimes, and actually I appeal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with these people that don't. Some people, if I tell you about them, you'll never even think about them. I just came across them for some time. Some of them are in prison, sometimes have died, some of them contributed this, some of them, but I make it a case that I pray for every Muslim so that they can pray for me. And wallahi, I'm telling you, this is the only thing I could think of. In Nana, my heart is full with all people. I do all of this, especially the community here that I have been attached to. And I said this also many times, that I don't have any. By the way, I didn't bring any member of my family for over the last 43 years I have been here. I didn't sponsor anyone, and have my own reasons for that, except my own immediate family. Children who were born here will bring. That's all what I did. And alhamdulillah, the community is our family. You know, my daughter Huda, they used to ask her, what is your name? She used to say, my name is Huda Ali Ruqayya, because I'm so close to Ali Ruqayya. We have an old man, I met him, subhanAllah, from Morocco, a long time when I was in the hospital. His name is Al-Hassan. I named my son after him. And my kids used to say, this is our grandfather. And this is why I say to people, I say this, painful as it is, I'm going to repeat, painful as it is, your best shelter is the Muslim community, no matter how you look at it. I always say to Muslims, don't deceive yourself. The Muslims are your closest, and Allah said this when I read this verse, أَفَنَجْعَلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ كَالْمُجْرِمِينَ مَا لَكُمْ كَيْفَ تَحْكُمُونَ. People who come to me and say, oh, we're dealing with this, we have this. The Prophet said this, and I'm going to conclude this. Said, الْمُؤْمِنَ الَّذِي يُخَالِطَ النَّاسِ وَيَصْبِرْ عَلَى أَذَاهُمْ. The Muslims are our shelter, our family, our people. And I think if you make that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring people's hearts to you.
وجعلنا بعضكم لبعض فتنة أتصبروا.
ما شاء الله. Inshallah. وجزاكم. Inshallah, next week we want to hear the answer from Sheikh Ala and from Sheikh Ahmed Salim. Give you some more time to prepare. Inshallah. But as for tonight, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. We're trying to respect the rules of social distancing. That's why we're reducing the number of people on the screen. And hopefully, inshallah, we can take turns, moderating from home, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah bless you. I want to thank everyone who's working from behind the scenes, Brother Hassan Ghani, Brother Mikhail, all our respected sisters, Sister Seema, Sister Sausan, Sister Yasmin, Sister Amina, all of them. May Allah bless them and give them Jannat Firdaus. And our board, may Allah bless them for facilitating and being there for us, especially the leadership of Sister Burhan and Brother Shihab. May Allah bless them and give them Jannat Firdaus. Ya Rabbi.
By the way, some of the brothers we didn't see for some time, like Brother... I used to see Brother Mirza every day almost. These days don't seem that much. With Nabil and Brother Singh, I didn't see him for quite some time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them all.
Since all of you are here, I just wanted to share a very big milestone that we achieved. That restaurant providing free healthcare meals, providing free meals to healthcare professionals. Alhamdulillah, we launched it with the partnership of so many restaurants now that I lose track of them. We crossed 2,000 free meals served today. Alhamdulillah. And that was like 2 days ago, we were at like 1,000 and now we're at 2,000. So at this rate, we're growing at a rate of COVID. So that's a good thing. We're matching the curve.
Actually,
and so we're hoping that we'll be able to serve over 5,000 people. So I really want to give shout out to all the restaurants.
No, I think news just now. So the last thing I read on Al Jazeera is that the Queen of Malaysia, she's serving food for the health by herself. She said this is the least we can do to appreciate the Queen. نعم.
جزاكم الله خير.
نعم. شكرا جزيلا.
سبحانك
حفظكم الله.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك.
نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Thank you again for tuning in. Have a good night.
جزاك الله خيرا.
9 والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.